And there's no doubt last Sunday was filled with some really good mood because the fact you came away with a win, but also some heartbreak as well with the New Orleans Saints losing Jameis Winston for the season with an ACL injury. And we'll talk about that and so much more with our guy, Mike Nabors, part of Nabors Media. Also has interviewed Drew Brees countless times on CST. Maybe we'll get to that as well in this interview. But right now we go to the 137 Game Hotline. Mike, how you doing?
I'm great. Good to be on with you guys. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good on this Saturday. Obviously, the first thing I'm going to ask you is you were at the Superdome. Outside of last year's COVID year when you didn't have fans in the stands, was that the absolute quietest you've heard the Superdome get after that Jameis Winston injury?
Yeah, it really was. I thought Sean Payton was a little unfair, basically describing, Saints fans as underwhelming in certain situations. I think big third down plays, things like that. But yeah, it was a strange moment for sure because it was obviously unexpected, and it was such a great game because he had answered Tom Brady's touchdown drive with one of his own. So you felt for the player, and you didn't know how the game would be moving forward too. So I think there was a lot of just question marks, unsettledness a little bit. So it was quiet for sure, absolutely.
It was just wild to see all that happen, and it's like now you get to see an opportunity for Trevor Siemian to shine. I think he did because he just handled the game well. He did pretty much what Jameis had been doing for the first half of the season, just managing the game, and he managed it well against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and helped them get a really nice win over their division foe.
Yeah, you got to give a lot of credit to him and Sean Payton, obviously, for having the game plan intact. And I like what, Alvin Kamara said this week, though, that, and Sean Payton kind of echoed this, that, he's been that way since he walked into the building, a guy that you felt like he'd step in at any situation and has impressed them. And I think people forget about, too, that, he had some good wins when he was in Denver, and he's a guy that was counted out at Northwestern, and nobody really gave him a chance to play in the NFL. But I interviewed him afterwards. We used to be CST, now we're YourView. We just made the move. But, I'll say this about him. He was calm even after that game. A guy who was, I think, taken 7 pass attempts in the last 4 years before this game. It's amazing what he did, but some guys just have that calmness about them. They don't get rattled, and they work extremely hard, and they get prepared, and that's Trevor Siemian for sure.
And, Sean Payton brought up the fact that he had a select playbook that was mapped out specifically for Trevor Siemian. Have you ever heard of something like that, having specific plays mapped out for somebody? It's kind of that in case of emergency break glass playbook. It feels like something I never necessarily thought about. I'm sure maybe some guys do have that kind of setup where I'm sure Sean Payton has that as well. If, Jameis Winston had been underperforming, hey, put Taysom Hill in as the quarterback. Here's the playbook we're going to go with.
Yeah, I think that's what's been the calling card of the Payton era is he really finds the strengths in all of his players, whether it's a running back or a wide receiver or in this case a quarterback, and he is very thorough in finding the weaknesses in the opponents and what his guys can do well, and he's done it since he stepped foot in New Orleans, and you really have seen it with his quarterbacks lately. I thought the magic number was 5 last week. He's 5-0 on holidays, 2-0 on Halloween, 2-0 on Thanksgiving, 1-0 on Christmas. He's won with 5 different quarterbacks now, and it was his 5th win over Bruce Arians since he came to Tampa. Unfortunately for the Saints, Payton is 5-1 against Arians, but that one was a pretty big one. But, it's amazing what he's done with his quarterbacks. And, he's always finding the strengths of his players against the weaknesses of the opposition, and that's what's made him a great head coach.
All right, talking now with Mike Nabors, Nabors Media. I want to get your perspective on this. And it was like whenever I saw Mark Ingram on the field for the first time wearing 14, did that feel like an absolutely cursed image to see him wearing 14 after all those years rocking the 22?
You know what? I'll look at it this way. I didn't think about it until I saw the Saints release something on social media this week. I heard the interview where Ingram had trouble picking out a number because obviously his old number is taken, and he thought about calling Archie Manning and getting 8, and that didn't, he wasn't going to do that. But it's kind of cool that, he's 14 and Kamara's 41. It's kind of the inverse, and those guys get along so well. I kind of like the number now, just with that, because I think, they need Mark Ingram. What's amazing to me about the Saints right now. And you look at, they beat a Bucs team that has all these weapons. They're almost like the New York Yankees where they go out and buy any player they want. But the Saints have Kamara and they have Ingram. But if you look at their leading wide receiver, Marquez Callaway, and his receptions, he's 108 in the NFL in receptions. So you have a Trevor Siemian, you have a depleted wide receiving core, you have Mark Ingram just kind of learning, coming back again, yet you beat the defending Super Bowl champs. I think it's the most improbable win of the Sean Payton era. It's amazing to me how they can do it with all the setbacks they've had. And it's just been that kind of year. I mean, it's amazing they beat the Packers after, having to evacuate with Hurricane Ida. I mean, there's something destiny about this team. It's just something different. It's been that kind of year for sure.
It's just been that kind of year. It's been fun to see how everything has progressed over the last few weeks. And heading into this game against the Atlanta Falcons, I think obviously the conversation is now who's going to be the guy going forward as the starting quarterback. This week, obviously, with Taysom Hill returning from a concussion, Trevor Siemian is going to be taking over. This is that true full game audition we never really get to see all that often. And obviously the Saints the last few years have had Drew Brees get out due to injury, but it's only been for 4 or 5 games, and he's going to be coming back. Jameis Winston, he's not going to be coming back. And Peyton has to make a decision, not just for the short-term future, but potentially for the long-term future, because we don't know if Jameis Winston is going to be re-signed for 2022. He played well, but it's all about what the future is going to be. Is he going to wind up probably letting Taysom Hill have an opportunity to be that starting quarterback if Trevor does indeed fall short of the mark and he winds up underperforming this weekend?
I think that's absolutely going to happen. But if Trevor Siemian keeps playing well, I think it's a win-win for the Saints because Taysom's health continues to improve. Obviously, that's first and foremost. Then it'll be a weapon for Trevor Siemian because, as I mentioned, they don't have a lot of weapons with the depleted wide receiving core with Michael Thomas being out and Deontay Harris and Traquan Smith just getting back in the fold a little bit. Kind of reading between what Sean Payton said this week, they want to see how Taysom is health-wise, but I also think they really want to see how Trevor Siemian is moving forward. If he can continue to improve, it's going to make things interesting because, there's no question Sean Payton wants Taysom Hill to succeed at quarterback. That's been a project for him the last couple of years of paying Taysom Hill a lot of money. But if Trevor Siemian keeps playing well and improving, it's going to be a good problem for Sean Payton and the Saints. So, and you mentioned Jameis Winston. I think in the long run, that may be good for the Saints too, because if Jameis would have kept improving and had a big year, he would have commanded more money on the market. But now he still kind of has that unknown factor to him. And may be able to have Jameis Winston come back at a reduced price. All kinds of moving parts, such an interesting development with this quarterback situation. And it's not boring when you talk about the Saints because there's always a big plot, especially on offense this year, whether it's Michael Thomas or, life after Drew Brees or, is Jameis going to be the guy? Now he's hurt. Now you have Trevor Siemian. It's kind of crazy that they're 5-2, to be honest with you.
It's crazy, but at the same time, you can't be mad at it because you're getting things done. And I think more importantly, you got to give credit to the Saints defense. They've been the most elite part of this team, getting it done, and more importantly, they've been able to step their game up when it matters most and help this team, help the offense just be a good game manager.
Yeah, I agree. It's really been the case for the Saints the last 4 years. Even when Teddy Bridgewater came in for Brees 2 years ago and they were 5-0, the defense carried him. Bridgewater played well, but it was all about the defense. And that's been the case since they've rebounded from those losing seasons and had that great draft class in 2017. They started to build this defense. Dennis Allen doesn't get enough credit, in my opinion, the Saints defensive coordinator. Everybody talks about Sean Payton against Tom Brady, but that's Dennis Allen against Tom Brady. He's developed a game plan to stop Tom Brady for the most part since he arrived in Tampa. And, this defense, to me, is only going to get better. You have Onyemata coming back. You have Davenport. If he can stay healthy along with Cam Jordan, that's arguably the best defensive line in football. DeMario Davis, what can you say about him? Quan Alexander's only going to get more and more comfortable. And then you have the secondary. You lose Janoris Jenkins. Lattimore and Marcus Williams are stalwarts back there and Malcolm Jenkins. But I really like the fact that they have Bradley Roby and Paulson Adebo's learning. I just think this defense is going to get even better, and that's great news for the Saints.
It's tremendous news for the Saints talk right now. Mike Nabors, Nabors Media, and especially as you head into this home stretch, because now you're in November, and obviously the season's now, because it's an 18-week season, you are now going to be getting into like mid-January with January 9th against the Atlanta Falcons to wrap up the season. But there's a legit chance now where the Saints could be still in control of their own destiny and be NFC South champions, all about how they do against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in just a few weeks' time. But now, like, do you think this team has a chance to make a run for the postseason with everything going on, going against them? You don't have Michael Thomas. You don't really have a kicker you can 100% rely on. It feels like all the odds are against them, but standing at 5-2, you still have a chance to make the playoffs.
Oh, I think they definitely have a chance to win the division. I think they definitely have a chance to make a run. I mean, you look at the history of the Saints with Sean Payton, they've never really had elite receivers. I mean, Michael Thomas was the first Pro Bowl receiver. Marcus Colston should have been, but Michael Thomas was the first one, and that was 2017. I mean, that's way into the Sean Payton era. I really like Deontay Harris. I think Traquan Smith has potential. I like Taysom Hill, being that Swiss Army knife. Mark Ingram's only going to help things. I think Adam Troutman, tight ends, coming along a little bit. Juwan Johnson. I mean, they have guys. They're not household names, but I think these guys will only get better. And, the defense is there. We'll see about this new kicker. We'll see. He's kind of been thrown in there a little bit. But I think they've kind of rallied around the fact that, they've lost so much. They've been through so much. So I definitely think they can win the division, and I think they can make a run. I don't know if they can make a Super Bowl. That may be a lot to ask, but I definitely think they'll be interesting to watch down the stretch here.
Hey, one more thing before I let you go. You were talking about CST. Now it's your view. Everything's getting shifted over to there. And it's crazy thing. It's been almost 20 years since CST had first launched. What were kind of some of your lasting memories being part of that television network and being part of the Saints post-game and game day broadcasts?
Oh, so many great memories. They've been really good to me. They're the best people I've worked for, and we've had a chance to really do some creative things. And I was able to help bring Drew Brees to the network, and my bosses were really instrumental in making that happen. And I'll announce it on your show today. I haven't told too many people this, but I wrote a book on Drew Brees, and it's coming out the first week in December, and it's called The Brees Way, and it's really a compilation of the best interviews I did with Drew. We had a one-on-one after every game for 14 years. We didn't do it in 06, but we did it 07 through last season, nearly 300 one-on-ones. And Doug Flutie, who was Drew Brees' mentor, wrote the foreword for my book and supplied a lot of great content, a lot of great stories on Drew when he was a young player. We have great stuff from Marcus Colston, Zach Strief, Roman Harper, Lance Moore. So they've all endorsed the book too, Deuce McAllister. So I'm really excited about releasing this early December. So I'll have to come in your parts, maybe have a book signing, because I'm starting to schedule some around the state of Louisiana. But it'll be the perfect holiday gift, The Brees Way, the book coming out the first week of December. I'm really excited about it.
I was about to say, I'm going to have to put in my pre-order. Where do you kind of pre-order this? Because obviously there's a lot of different places that you can get nowadays. But what's kind of where's this going to be like sold at?
It'll definitely be on Amazon. It's funny, I'm working out all the details right now. I've just approved my final draft, and we're going to start printing these, and I'll have more information probably in the next 2 weeks. But it's definitely going to be out the first week of December. We're already scheduling, like I said, book signings and promotions for this. So I'll definitely be in touch and have all that info for you, and hopefully I'll come back on. I can pass it on to your listeners too.
Exactly. Let's try and get a book signing arranged in Lafayette on a Saturday between 10 a.m. and noon, and we can kind of do a cross promotion type thing. How about that?
Let me know, my brother. Let's do it. I haven't told many people yet. I'm having a book signing in Pensacola because I had some friends there. They've already heard about it. I wanted to keep it under wraps until I knew all the I's were dotted and T's were crossed. But now I know it's going to happen. So I would love to do something like that. Absolutely.
You've got my number, brother. We'll be in touch. Thank you so much for coming on, man. We'll talk to you down the road.
Look forward to it.